everyone, welcome to MT Guitar and to another edition of Pink Floyd Friday. I'm MT. Today we're going to do a complete breakdown of Breathe, which, where to begin? I mean, there's so much to say about this. Let's talk first about the fact that the CD release version of Dark Side has Speak to Me alongside with Breathe. And while that makes sense because the songs do meld into each other in terms of the transition of each, they actually were intended to be separate entities with different royalties. Nick Mason is credited with Speak to Me because he was more of the conceptual manager in terms of how the album was all being conceptually addressed musically. And he wanted to put together sort of an overture. So in Speak to Me you hear cash registers alluding to the song Money, which was to come later, as well as interviews, which appear throughout the album as well. Now, the interviews are interesting. They were done in Studio C of Abbey Road, and mostly were interviews from the road managers and the Abbey Road employees that were just kind of around. Now, there's a funny tidbit. Paul McCartney actually had done a couple questions, but Waters didn't use them, and he says that McCartney was kind of trying to be funny, and that just wasn't really fitting with the vibe. Kind of an interesting thing there. So Roger Waters, this is the first album in which he wrote all the lyrics to the entire album. Lyrically speaking, the band as a whole wanted to be more clear and concise and to the point with this album. And so Waters had something very clear to say. The album has to do with sort of living a life. It starts and ends with a heartbeat. And more importantly, to the album's concept has to do with the pressures of a modern lifestyle, money, time, how time flies by, and the fact that you're dealing with so many stresses of a modern day life, and eventually insanity creeps into that concept with brain damage, and there's different sort of references to Syd Barrett throughout this relating to all these things as well. Okay, so really interesting stuff conceptually that Waters became the sole lyricist for this project. Now when we talk about Breathe, Richard Wright, the keyboardist, was the only formally trained musician, and he had quite a vocabulary of jazz chords. So E minor add 9, we do see that in modern styles, but if you look at E minor add 9 to the A chord, that's actually the beginning of a 2-5-1. Okay, if we had a D major 7, for instance, that would be the most common progression in jazz, which is a 2-5-1. So it's not that rare, but it is interesting to note. Now, when we go to the chorus, it gets really interesting. We see major 7 chords like F major 7, C major 7, and then we see D7 sharp 9 and D7 flat 9. Now, a sharp 9 chord, we recognize that from Purple Haze and different Hendrix songs, and Beatles songs here and there, but flat 9 is incredibly rare. Okay, now both the sharp 9 and flat 9 chords are chords in the jazz vocabulary. Gilmour was really establishing his vocabulary right away on this album. And, the wonderful stuff he's doing in between the vocal fills is really great. He's using sixths a lot, right? So if I sort of sample that here, when he goes like this. Okay, that's just really nice guitar work here. And we have... it's over the A chord, so here's a 6th interval, okay? 10th fret, 11th fret, 12th fret. So that's a minor 6, here's a major 6. Now, another pass he does here, so he goes way up there. So those are also 6. Okay, now he was also playing a lap steel guitar, and he was doing it with a volume pedal. And that gave it a really sort of similar sound to like a pedal steel guitar. Dark Side of the Moon was a massive success. It created them a lot of wealth and stardom, and it was their breakthrough in the U.S. They had some success with Obscured by Clouds, but really the U.S. wasn't aware of Pink Floyd on a popular level until Dark Side, and it was on the charts for 962 weeks. Okay, totally insane. And it sold more than 35 million copies worldwide. Now, Dark Side, has a reputation of being this really, brilliantly crafted studio album. And while there's a lot of truth to that, it actually was mostly arranged live, all right, during their 72 tour. they were fleshing this song out live, and they were actually playing it in the same order with the transitions as it appears on the album. So that was something they had planned on doing. They had kind of thought, let's try this stuff out live. So last Pink Floyd Friday, I played the the solo note for note as is on the studio recording, and it sounds a little bit like this. And you can find that on the Patreon, all tabbed out. So yeah, check that out. And it was fun getting every note just as Gilmour had done it. What I did to start out this video is more of an acoustic version, where I'm sort of just improvising the rhythms a little bit and the fills. And it sounds really good on acoustic guitar. I mean, just the E minor add 9 chord alone is a lot of fun to play, right? And because they're open chords, it also works really well on acoustic. And the fills work just as well, I think, too. So you can totally play the song on acoustic, and you can use the tab I have up, or that you can use the lesson from last week as a guide for your acoustic. Now, with acoustic, generally we want to feel more of a sense of strumming and rhythm. So when you're doing electric, you're kind of imagining the drums and bass and keys, but it's kind of nice to do a solo, all on one guitar to kind of sound like the song. So I would just keep the rhythm going if you're going to do that. I also did some chord melody stuff where I did that kind of thing, just combining the melody that Gilmour is singing. So have fun with that. Of course, the chorus is a little bit more complex. You've got C major 7 to B minor 7, okay? F major 7, G, and here's your D7 sharp 9, D7 flat 9. What's cool about that is that's an F to an E flat, and then that surrounds the E. So it really nicely leads back to the verse. Just a really well constructed song musically. All right, now there's more to say about the album, but I think that wraps up my little fun talk on Breathe, on the breakdown. After this song, On the Run comes, and On the Run is famous for all the electronic sequencing that went on, and that was meant to help convey the stresses of modern life, travel, work, etc. So remember to subscribe, hit the bell icon. I'm gonna try to do different things on Pink Floyd Friday and not just teach only guitar, but also dive into the background and the history a little bit and the stories. I'm learning a lot just diving in deeper, so I hope you are too. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and we'll see you next lesson. Bye.